You were here before. You remember that, right?
Okay, yeah. Wait. Oh, are you that Doug Hardy? Sorry. Okay,
yeah. We did like an hour together.
I know like 4 Doug Hardys, and no, I'm just kidding. No, just because there are people who know me and continually mispronounce my name.
What's your favorite mispronunciation of your
the
name?
most standard,
I would think Bill Pebbles would be.
Yeah, Pebbles is one. I had a coach he only always called me Pubols. And it's the only difference is I don't know what that's called in the English pronunciation guide or whatever, but it's Pubols, not Pubols.
Right.
So I don't know what that difference is.
Okay.
I mean, I know I can hear the difference. I just don't know how to describe it.
It's pew, like church pew.
Yeah. Well, if you think of a
bull,
like
a
the bulls.
bull.
Yeah.
Right.
So I thought that when I design a family crest, I just think if we had 2 or 3 bulls dressed up in their church clothes sitting in a pew, it'll be our family crest. That's what it's going to be.
What about the S at the end? Is that because you can mispronounce that like Z, like Boise, or because it's Boise? Is it Pubols or Pubols like a Z?
It used to be a Z, and they changed it, but you still pronounce it like a Z. Unlike Boise, which I still have a hard time with because I'm a Pubols. So it's all backwards. Yeah, it's bad.
So there actually was a Z at the end at one time?
It was, yeah. It used to be von Buchholz. And I had, this is true, I'm not making this up. We had a ancestor who got into gambling debt, and he had to sell his title von over in Prussia somewhere. And so if you sold your title, you couldn't keep your same name. And so he changed it from Buchholz to Pubols, presumably because he could doctor his documents a little bit and just erase or something. And so and then when they came through, my ancestors came through Canada and settled over near Portland, Hillsboro, and it went from Pubols with a Z to Pubols, and I don't know why. I will say this: my grandfather was born in 1903, and when I was in grade school, I said, "Grandpa, did anybody ever make fun of your name when you're?" Because I thought, back in the days of black and white, early photography, people didn't make fun of each other back then. But now, in the color world of the 70s, people did. And and he goes, "I heard every name in the book." And so people were creative even then in middle school.
Now, is he the one that changed the spelling, or did that happen? Was it Uncle Festus Pubols back?
That must have been my great-grandfather, Rudolph.
Okay.
Yes, and he did not have a red nose that I know of.
Uh-huh.
He came in 1890, and interesting thing I learned not too long ago. He purchased a farm over in Hillsboro, and he worked for a while, and then he purchased one, leveraged it fairly heavily, but they grew wheat, and within a year, I think, of when he made that purchase, World War I began. And the price of wheat skyrocketed, and he was able to pay off that farm in just a few short years, and thanks to World War I. So don't look at world history and say World War I was this horrible tragedy, because my great grandfather was able to pay off our farm.
Okay,
I think that was a form of manifest destiny in a very small way for my family. So I feel chosen in a lot of ways.
Right. Interesting. I had no idea all that about you. I learned more about you in the last 5 minutes than in the past year. That's good stuff. So you're down at the Biblical Study Center down at Boise State.
Yeah.
Do you find with trying to get volunteers and people to help down there, do you find that people are frightened in some ways of the kids? Just in the sense that they don't really know how to connect with them. They're just not sure how they think, these kids and their phones and the technology. Do you find that a challenge down there?
That's why we have an observatory room that they can watch through glass for the first couple of times.
Okay, that's good. Observe the subjects.
Yeah. Well, some of them have music that the older generation doesn't count as actual music.
Imagine that.
And so what we actually do is we can do a soundproof booth, and we pipe in the old hymns as they're watching like a worship night or something.
Just to put them at ease.
It puts them at ease.
They don't hear the kids' music.
They don't hear that loud music, and how could anybody worship to these drums?
And and the kids can't see them.
No, it's one way.
Just for pure observance.
Right, yeah. So
absolutely. It sounds crazy, but that is a reality for folks.
We're trying to make this thing work any way we can.
Yeah.
And And any exposure I count as good exposure. So
Right, for sure.
we get them down there. Actually, it is interesting. That's one of the key reasons we offer a Thursday free lunch, and that was started before I got there with a mind toward just offering a free lunch to students to bless them. And when I came in almost 3 years ago now, I looked at that and said, this is a huge aspect of this is these people that come in and serve the meal. And that almost, I joke about the one-way mirror, but that's kind of what it is, because they're back there, they're in the kitchen, they're serving, and this might be a woman's Sunday or a woman's Bible study or a Sunday school class that comes down, and they'll prepare a lunch. And the whole point is this is supposed to be a home-cooked meal, and students really do appreciate that. And I don't know if you remember college or the dorms or that kind of thing, but the food can be good, and it can be all you can eat, and it can all kind of start to taste the same after a while. And so anything that has the whiff of home cooked, the students love. Well, they come in, and I think it's encouraging for older people to see, and older people being, anybody over 30, but older people to see, hey, these are real people, and they're not that scary. Just like anybody, there's things that I don't get. One thing for me is I don't have any tattoos. And I'm just
we'll take care of that today.
Okay, right.
Get the gun.
You hear the screaming in the background. No.
Bill's getting inked today.
But that's not I don't have a super strong moral stance on that. I just don't have any, and I probably am not going to end up getting any at this point. But that's a huge part of the culture now. So I'll look at things and I'll go, wow, okay. Probably, honestly, 20 years ago, I would have looked at things a little bit differently. So, this guy's a little radical. Now I look at it and say, hey, tell me about your tattoo. And everyone's got a story about it. And there's a reason they're doing it. And it's part of who they are, and it's a part of their story. And
it's amazing what a meal does to open up conversation.
Exactly.
When you're sitting down over food, there's something about that where the conversation just flows.
Well, we did our final athletes meeting Monday night this last week. And the guy was making, one of the ministers that works with us and volunteers, he was making his brisket. And he said, how many to count on? I said, you know what? Heading into, it's dead week. I think the numbers are going to be way down. Just plan on about, maybe 15 to 20. Well, closer to 40 showed up because word of the brisket got out.
And word of the brisket hits the streets.
There was a couple of football players that have never been to anything other than a chapel that I've done. And, I seen them there. And all of a sudden they're there sitting at the table. I was like, hey there. What are you guys doing? Oh, this is awesome. This is really good. So that was good. And then I was actually able to connect with them, and we're going to get together this summer. So there's opportunities that grow from that, and it was fun to realize, they're here for the food tonight, but they're open to talk about spiritual things, and so that's part of how it's just everything is a finesse, and trying to be someone who is there to develop people and there to invest in them and there to help them grow and disciple them. But there's a line where sometimes you're actually influencing someone without actually really discipling them. In some way, you say, hey, you make it a formal relationship, but I would say more often than not, those are informal relationships that, they haven't signed on to say, will you help me grow in a 12-week process of walking
Sorry, this
through
is
the
fun.
Word?
If you can hear that alarm, it means our station's off the air.